Mark Newhouse came in with third place chips. A huge hand developed and a huge call by cash game specialist Will Tonking, knocking out another cash game specialist, Mark Newhouse, leaving the Penn and Teller Theater stunned. We said it last year. We're saying it again this year. Kara Scott is down with our 9th place finisher, Mark Newhouse.
And out in 9th place, it's Mark Newhouse. Mark, we saw a lot of your play on the coverage. You're always so interesting to watch. You have a tendency to be able to play in lots of different styles. What do you think of Will's call there?
I mean, it's a good call. It's about where I thought he was. And I'm either bluffing or I'm not. I either got the jack or I'm turning less of a hand into a bluff, or I just have nothing. He made the right call.
We spoke earlier about how you spent pretty much 8 months of the last 2 years waiting for a final table. So what happens now for you?
Back to normal life, back to the grind. That's it.
Thank you so much, Mark, out in 9th.
So, our updated leaderboard, Mark Newhouse has been paid out his 9th place money already, and we are left with 8, and we are left with Will Tonking on top of the leaderboard with almost 48.5 million chips, 96 big blinds. Gone not too much further behind, but those two certainly have separated themselves from the field, and we're all still stunned in here, Norman.
Yeah, what a juxtaposition of events for Mark Newhouse. On the one hand, the incredible achievement of back-to-back November 9s, and that's just remarkable. And then on the other hand, the devastating 9th place finish for the 2nd straight year. I don't know how he's really going to be able to deal with it.
All right, let's hear from Will Tonking, who told us he's not looking for fame and owing it all to poker.
That's not really why I entered this tournament, to get famous or anything like that. You know, I take pride in my game. You know, poker's done a lot for me, given me a lot. You know, if that's what, you know, goes along with winning this, then, you know, I owe that to poker, and I'll do it the best I can. But, you know, I'm just trying to play well and see what happens.
So that whole persona that you get from what he just said is Will Tonking. I mean, it's a straight ahead, all business all the time. So things change a little bit 8-handed. You see that maybe people start loosening up a little bit. The pressure can change. Big stacks start putting a little more heat on the shorter stacks, and certainly there is quite a diversity of the haves and have-nots here. Jacobson remains at the short stack with about 10 million. Pappas open raise with, he must love the clubs, Jack 8 of clubs this time. And there's a call from Jacobson.
By the way, just going back to that hand, I want to give Tonking a lot of credit. I mean, it takes a lot of heart to call off basically your whole stack at the main event final table. You know, when your opponent is representing a hand, and if he has it, it's over. So, you know, as much as I might have needled him for playing tight here and there, obviously the guy knows exactly what he's doing. That was an incredible call.
1.75.
Pappas flop middle pair has the best of it, and bet $1,750,000 after Martin had checked.
2 pair. Flop 2 pair.
I'm sorry. Yes,
yeah,
Jack's up. And Jacobson does fold, and Billy Pappas gets a little healthier. And I think I mean, everyone's still talking about that hand. The guys here, they all seem a little stunned by it. You know, they're like, how did he go out?
That was pretty incredible. I mean, it kind of does make sense. You know, if Newhouse had a jack, it's probably more likely that he would check back the turn and keep the pot kind of small.
No, it's not really the chips. It's more the box.
Okay.
But why cannot you put in your right?
I'm sorry?
Why cannot you put your chips on your right?
I can, but it's more.
I don't know. Maybe
I don't like
it's bad for you, but I think it's better.
Real estate issue out there. And now we have lost a player. You see that Billy Pappas has moved over. Everyone on that side of the table has moved over a seat to make sure everybody is nice and tight. But Larabe hoping things aren't too tight in his corner. Need a little elbow room with all those chips in play.
I would expect Stevenson to be one with wanting more elbow room. Norway doesn't have many people, so a poker table would seem a little crowded. I mean, Norway's a big country with only 5 million.
Everyone watching their borders very carefully.
Jacobson from Sweden. That's an all-in.
Yes.
All in.
All in from Martin Jacobson.
Who just went below 20 big blinds for the first time.
Ace Jack for the short stack. And he will take it.
Sindelar has a fantastic seat, by the way. He has both of the short stacks on his left. That's exactly where you want to be.
Jacobson now stacking chips, and he really has been hamstrung. Just has not been able to get anything going. Started with 14.9 million, and the chips have to move from someone when the other stacks are getting bigger. And that's the nature of poker and the blind structure. Coming up Tuesday night, this will all be over. One of these players will be $10 million richer and noticed as the world champion of No Limit Hold'em Poker. 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. We'll all be back, bringing you the play-by-play, cards face up, 30-minute delay.
Raise 1.1 million.
If you're going to enter a pot, you better raise it. And that's what Von Hof has done. King, queen of hearts.
Yeah, I have a tough time getting Newhouse off my mind, Lonnie. He said again this year he's just going to let the cards fall as they may, as he thought about last year. But after that final hand falls, I just don't know how he deals with that emotionally tonight, tomorrow, or for a long time.
It is quite incredible, and he was very open last year about how long it took him to get over that disappointment of finishing ninth, and to have such a bigger stack, what he labeled as a softer table. You know, it was just amazing. Everything was lining up for him to have a much bigger finish. And then for that to happen with what, as you characterize as the correct poker play.
I mean, look, I think in the long run, you know, when there's so much at stake, you're going to get your opponent to fold there a lot of times. There's a lot of money out there. And so if you want to win this thing, you have to make that play. I love the play. I'm still going to defend it, even though it didn't work out. Tonking made a fantastic call, but I think that a lot of players would have folded there. So, you know, Newhouse played with heart, and it didn't work out. But hey, at least he came here and he played with heart.
And interesting what he said. Tonking said to his supporters that he would have called sooner if it were not this situation.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much at stake.
But he's snap calling. I mean, it sounds like he's never folding that from what he was saying.
Yeah, which is shocking to me because, you know, Newhouse doesn't really have, you know, a jack is really the only hand that makes sense there, obviously. So either has a jack or, you know, he also has to have a hand where he called a big raise pre-flop, called the flop at the turn. So really the only hand that makes sense is a jack.
Well, Mark Newhouse is constantly finding ways to shock and surprise the poker world in the last few months.
I'm not an expert, but it just seems to me that he's just built to finish in ninth place in the main event.
Ouch. He is in a lot of pain right now, Norman Chad. The Norman Chad needle is not going to help.
No, we have never sold short the accomplishments of Mark Newhouse at the 2014 and 2013 main events. It is something that will go down in poker lore. Yeah, I never want to say never, that it will never be repeated, but
it's very unlikely.
Chances are we won't be doing this when it happens.
Very unlikely.
The field's just going to get bigger. It's going to get tougher. All right, so Billy Pappas will start this hand with the button. Fold it around to Politano. And, boy, he has really shut down his cheering section. So folded to Billy on the button, and he wants to raise it up again. A couple of clubs again, Billy? What? Just one of them. Jack 10. Stevenson with 19.6 million. He has not been a happy camper at this final table, coming in with the second biggest stack of almost 33 million. So quite a dip for Stevenson, but here he does re-raise with the best hand, ace-9.
A lot of pros might say call here. A lot, you know, would go on the raising side. You know, it just comes down to your player. You know, what do you think he's going to do with marginal hands? I love 3-betting here. I hate calling out of the small blind and playing a pot out of position.
Well, you have to take your shots too, and you know, fold it to Billy there. You're going to raise, and you get re-raised, and it's over.
I mean, you know, Pappas has a good stack to do that too. He doesn't really want to 4-bet here and commit most of the stack. So unless he has a hand, you're probably going to pick up the pot right there.
Stevenson told us before this final table began that he was not happy that Newhouse was on his left because he had a lot of chips, and now he doesn't have to worry about that anymore. And back over 20 million. Stevenson about 10% of the chips in play, a little more.
I just noticed that Stevenson is wearing a gumball patch. That's a car rally race kind of thing.
Oh, the gumball rally, right?
Yeah, I did that about 5-6 years ago. I had a blast.
You did a car rally?
I did. I mean, I wasn't driving, but my friend was. But you know,
you were navigating?
I was there.
Oh, you were there.
I was scared, but I was there.
So you were in the passenger seat with a map, or just watching?
I was a manly man, Norman Chad. Don't you worry.
Politano has the action folded to him, and he will raise to get things started with ace-jack. 1.1 million and a tick more. And now the small blind, Von Hof.
2.8.
Just looks a little muscle.
Well, it's a tough spot for Politano. He's got ace-jack. His opponent 3-bet him in the small blind. You know, every decision is so big for Politano here. I mean, ace-jack is really close. It's marginal. If your opponent has ace-queen, ace-king, you're dead. If he's 3-betting you with a light hand, you kind of have to commit it. You know, you only have 20 something bigs. You can't really do much else. I mean,
Von Hof knows all of that. He knows what he's doing with Politano.
Von Hof has all the chips. He's putting a lot of pressure on Politano here. I love the play, but will Politano have enough heart to shove with ace-jack? I mean, it's not an easy shove. Not an easy shove.
And I can imagine discussions happen with these less inexperienced players, and that item probably comes up. You know, don't get them all in with ace-jack. Don't get them all in with, you know, whatever.
What we've seen from Politano's makeup up to now, I believe he does not want to shove in this spot with ace-jack.
He's a pretty, I need two cards that look a lot alike kind of guy.
I mean, he might. You know, I wouldn't count it out just yet. I saw a lot of heart from him on day 7.
Well, again, we're over the little money bubble right now. And, you know,
right.
As Stevenson told us in some interviews, he says nobody's going to be hurt and everybody's happy with the money no matter where you go out. And now we're looking at $216,000 more for a guy who, though he does play a lot of poker, it's not his one and only livelihood.
No, I disagree with Stevenson a little about that. He did talked about how he'd be fine either way with 10 million or 733,000. I think I would be a lot more fine with 10 million. I don't think I'm going out on a limb there.
There are degrees of fine, right? Yeah.
And I don't think Bruno wants to go out right here.
And you see how long Politano has been thinking about this. Almost now equal to his pre-flop fold time that he's been.
And this is a legitimate pre-flop
absolutely
decision to make with his chip stack in this particular situation.
This is a real decision. I mean, you know, you're at the main event final table. Are you allowed to, you know, are you really about to put all your chips in with ace-jack? I mean.
And you're faced with that look from Von Hof.
Right. You know, no.
There is the fold. Wow, still nothing to cheer about from the Brazilian contingent. Von Hof, the second Dutchman at the main event final table in 2 years. And they are taking Politano to the woodshed here.
Well, we have three groups right now. Tonking and Van Hof both have almost half the chips on the table. Then Sindelar, Stevenson, and Larabe are with middle stacks. And then the smaller stacks, Billy Pappas, Politano, and Martin Jacobson.
Tonking is in a great position because he has position on the other a guy that has a lot of chips as well. So his seat is fantastic.
What a job he's done. He started this final table 7th in chips, and he's now the chip leader 8-handed.
He started 10-handed as a short stack back in July. And it's been quite a run for him. Politano gives it up. Stevenson now. And he's not going to let this pass to the button without something happening. And ace king of diamonds for Stevenson, a raise to 1.1 million. And you notice from Stevenson that his raise is consistent no matter what he has, 1.1 million each time.
Yeah, he's very calculated. Ace king suited. It's hard to get that hand.
You like ace king suited, don't you?
No, you know.
2.6 million.
Oh, look at this. Von Hof going to try to pull the same thing he did on Stevenson as he did with Politano. But it's not going to get by Stevenson, I don't think.
Stevenson.
It's going to be really interesting to see if he just calls. You know, we haven't seen him really get out of line, out of position, or really get out of line at all. He has a monster premium hand. Does he want to put in the re-raise here out of position against the second chip leader? I think it's close. I mean, you could go either way. It's fine. He's got a decent stack where, you know, if he had less chips, I think for sure it's a raise. But given that he has, you know, 22 million, it's close.
Ace king was golden for Stevenson on day 7. You may recall he had it against Newhouse's ace 9. Pushed all in, called by Mark, and won that hand. And then he had ace king against Tom Serra Jr.'s king queen. Felix moved all in there and was called by Serra. He got his big chip stack through those 2 ace king hands.
And look at this.
I love it. Just end the hand when all the money that's
our first 4-bet here pre-flop.
My opponent has a hand, you know, like queens. Let's just flip and let's get there. If he's got aces or kings, well, it was a good ride.
And I believe Von Hof is probably looking up at the scoreboard the players can see, and he can keep track of the chip counts of the other players, so he doesn't even need to ask Stevenson what he's got.
And now this is just a Hollywood. I mean, there's no version of Von Hof ever continuing in the spot.
And there is the fold from Jorrit, and Stevenson will take it with the first 4-bet pre-flop, but he had the goods to go with it. Ace king of diamonds. We're going to take a short break. Come on back. We're 8-handed now. Will Tonking, the man to beat. Back at the 2014 World Series of Poker Main Event Final Table telecast, presented by Gentleman Jack. We are 8-handed now at our final table. Dan Sindelar has been having a pretty good night right now in the second tier of chip stacks. Jorrit Von Hof in second place, but very healthy. He and Will Tonking hold almost half the chips in play. You see Tonking turning over the winning hand against Mark Newhouse, who was our 9th place finisher. And Robin Leach, yes, that Robin Leach, said he was knocked out first. Newhouse was. He went back-to-back final tables, back-to-back being knocked out first. And Robin Leach, he's an avid poker fan. He was there when we got down to a 9-handed play near the final table. And so he is always up close and personal with the guys.
Well, he's Mr. Lifestyles of the rich and famous, and these are people who are going to be rich, and some of them might be famous.
Mark Newhouse is not on that short list anymore, but I'm sure Robin still has his personal cell phone number. But anyway, thanks, Robin, for checking in. 8-handed, the crowd trying to pump up their charges here. Short stack is Martin Jacobson. He was looking at that scoreboard up there, and next to his name says 10.6 million. Politano with 10.7 million. This is the man of the hour right now. Will Tonking made that huge river call of Mark Newhouse's shove, and that propelled him into the lead with 47.6 million, and a raise from Tonking with ace tray. And Sindelar comes along with 9-8 offsuit. Sindelar and Tonking, the big blind, small blind. Jack, queen, a couple of diamonds.
Tonking and Sindelar, a couple of low-key pros. Neither one, you know, terribly ever talkative or obnoxious at the table. They just come to play.
Just going about their business. Sindelar with the bet. Tonking gives up his weak ace. And Dan Sindelar with a little smile. And our chip leader gives a little bit away. You see, he doesn't play a lot of tournaments. He really does play mostly cash. He's a cash game guy. Had to get his mindset into tournament mode coming here to the final table.
He went to South Carolina for college. A Jersey guy who decided he wanted warm weather, big-time football, and he said girls in sundresses 8 months a year. So I guess Oxford and Cambridge were out of the question.
We're out of the question. Will Tonking hoping to be the last man standing. And you'll see it all happen tomorrow night beginning at 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN when a world champion is crowned. And $10 million will be awarded to our champion. $10 million to our champion. And that's the number everyone's focusing on. But, hey, 5.1 per second.
Talk about an ROI, 10,000 to 10 million.
Isn't that true? Tonking has the button. It's been folded to our chip leader. World Series earnings before tonight for Tonking, $13,421. He mostly stays away from tournaments. Tonking with the raise. Sindelar makes the call. So these two will see a flop once again. Sindelar with the ace. 10, 7, 8. And so a pair of 10s for Tonking to take over the lead.
Definitely some action to this flop. Tonking's got top pair, king kicker, and Sindelar has 2 overcards and a gut shot straight draw. So, you know, to a random hand on the button, I don't think he's going anywhere.
You heard the Brazilians in the background there trying to get Bruno fired up. Unfortunately, Bruno has that seat. He's got his back to his main group of supporters back there. He always likes to have his eyes on them. He says they are one with me. But he's sitting his hand out, and there's a bet and a call. Deuce of hearts on the turn.
It's a great card for Tonking. This should probably end it. I think a check bet will probably end it here. It's just too vulnerable of a hand to check back on the turn here if you're Tonking and you know you have the best hand, which he does because his opponent just check called out of position on the flop. I'd be really surprised to see a check. I think it'll just be bet and fold.
Bet.
Part 1.
2.25.
But you never know with these guys, you know? Sometimes
yeah,
they get a little...
we're finding that out.
They get a little, you know...
There you go.
A little sticky.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how Will Tonking handles the chip lead. And he got into the pot with King 10, knowing it probably wasn't going to be the best hand. He managed to outflop Sindelar, and he picks up more chips as he is just shy of 50 million at this final table. He started the table at 15 million in 7th place. He's now top dog.
Tonking doesn't like a lot of fanfare. He just likes to focus on the poker. This is when they got to the main event final table bubble to try to ignore the totality of the moment at hand. He just thought about the scene from Hoosiers when Gene Hackman, his coach Norman Dale, measured the rim and told his players, still 10 feet, gentlemen. So even though it was that incredible setting of the main event final table bubble, he just tried to put that out of his mind and said, all right, let's just play poker.
52 cards, all the same, every time. Tonking does fold. I want to point out, you mentioned he went to South Carolina. So many times we say he went to South Carolina and then after his junior he got out of the game of college. But Tonking graduated, got his degree, so we got to give him props for that.
He got his degree in economics.
And here is Jacobson all in after Sindelar's raise with King Trey. Jacobson with pocket nines. And look at Politano. Give it to me, give it to me.
Look at Jacobson. He's so focused on his opponent. Even though he's all in, it makes no difference, you know? You have to respect that kind of focus.
So back to Sindelar, and he's going to quickly fold his King Trey. And Jacobson picks up an extra milli from Sindelar.
I hope we get to see Jacobson eventually show his poker chops.
He has strong chops, indeed.
And he's got strong chops in the kitchen, too. He went to culinary school, was a chef. I prefer that he go back to being a chef because I think he was probably a pretty good one, and we need more good food. We don't need more good poker players.
And if he's living in London, he can get you some more good food in London.
That's true. Where else would I go but his place? Because there's no place to eat in London. Okay, on my budget. Don't tell me about it, Antonio.
You should step out of the fish and chips realm and try some other stuff.
And being from Sweden, Jacobson had mandatory military service. He was in the service for a year and was a chef on a warship.
A chef on a warship, and he had to cook 5 meals a day. Even when he was sick, he got seasick sometimes from the turbulence. He still had to cook 5 meals a day. I guarantee you Wolfgang Puck is not cooking when he's seasick.
Play a lot of poker on that ship as well. Von Hof for the Rays.
Apparently all he did was play poker and eat. 5 meals a day, that sounds more like a cruise ship than a warship. They're eating like every 2 hours.
That's true.
Thank goodness Sweden didn't have to go to war.
Billy Pappas folds his big blind, and Von Hof will win that pot. With a smile on his face. Thank you, boys, he says. Are you surprised at the play of Von Hof at all? Would you expect a little more muscling, or is he being too passive as he's doing?
I think he's got the perfect balance of aggression and picking his spots carefully. I mean, he just opened with Jack-10 offsuit, Queen-4 suited earlier. He's 3-bet a couple times light. I like it. I love the way he's playing. He's not getting too far out of line, but he's putting just the amount of pressure on that he needs to.
At the same time, he's collecting a lot of information out there, hoping to get shorthanded, hoping to have the upper hand on festivities when he gets shorthanded.
Yeah, I like his hand. I like his chance to shorthanded, actually. I like the way he plays. Yeah, so far they've all been playing pretty good, actually. Some really strong poker. The only thing that I really didn't like was the check back of Larabe when he had a set on the river. Besides that, and also him not thinking about it when at the end when he made a straight and Von Hof moved on. He didn't even think about it. At least try and get a read off your opponent. If he's bluffing there, his energy, is going to be very nervous. So if you can pick up something, I'm not saying I'd ever call there. I'm just saying at least give it a thought.
So Tonking will take it. Opening raised to $1 million, and with ace queen of clubs, he is once again stacking the chips. Will Tonking has taken the top spot of this main event final table, and he looks like he's not going to give it up very easy. He and Van Hoff are running this table right now. Back with more in a moment. Welcome back to poker's biggest night. The 2014 World Series of Poker main event final table telecast is presented by Gentleman Jack. Here at the Rio, I'm Lon McCarron, Norman Chad, Antonio Esfandiari calling the action. Cards up. 30-minute delay, and Team Tonking has a lot to cheer about as their man is now the chip leader with over $50 million. Worked his way up from 7th place to 1st right now.
Team Tonking's just happy that when they drive out here, they don't have to pay a toll every 15 minutes.
Right?
Everywhere in New Jersey, I swear, I'm paying a toll. New Jersey Turnpike, Garden State Parkway. They're tired of paying money to drive on the roads. Out here, we drive where we want, when we want, and nobody has to pay.
I got some friends in New Jersey, and they're jealous I can pump my own gas here. Oh, at one point, it was like, I hate to pump my own gas. Now it's like everybody wants to pump their own gas. Can't do that in New Jersey. So, Tonking. First player to cross the 50 million chip barrier. Folded to Brazilian Bruno Politano.
And Bruno under 20 big blinds, our short stack right now.
9.7 million is the count. And he wants to raise it up. Gets the button to fold. Billy Pappas, Politano with a pocket pair again. Not that he's had a lot of them, but when he plays, he usually has a pocket pair. Von Hof folds his big blind. Politano will take it uncontested.
Politano first came to the World Series in 2011. That was his first main event, his first World Series, his first trip to Las Vegas. And he said he found that his game wasn't good enough. He was disappointed by his play. It made him a much stronger player. He said he knew he had to work a lot harder to get better. And he believes he's gotten a lot better the last couple of years.
A couple of the soccer stars, Neymar and Kaká, offered their support to Bruno Politano in a videotaped welcome and good luck send-off to him. That really got Bruno on the radar down there. When the soccer stars say something, people listen. And they heard Bruno's name, and so Bruno now is on their radar.
Soccer stars are mortal gods in Brazil.
It's the name thing. I mean, even with him, you know, they got 5 or 6 names, and they're somewhere they're using 1 name, sometimes they're using 3 names. It's hard to keep up with the name. I don't know what they put on their driver's license.
Raised to 1.1.
South Stevenson put out the raise. 6-5 off on the button, been folded to him. So what's that, poker code, right? Folded to you on the button, you got a raise. Still making it 1.1 million. Stevenson waiting.
2.7.
And there is a 3-bet once again from Von Hof with the pocket aces. Larabe in the big blind gets rid of it.
Hello.
Yeah. And there's no reason for the look, really. I mean, Stevenson's not going to continue with this, right?
I mean, there's a lot of Hollywood. Obviously, you just don't want to let your opponent think that you could run over you. So you want to make him think that you're thinking about it at least.
Von Hof will take that with a pre-flop 3-bet.
Von Hof says, I focus on playing 1 hand at a time. Boy, he should have been a college football coach. 1 hand at a time. Really?
Used to own a gaming store, traded Magic the Gathering cards, and he found out that the cards and comic books were valuable. And so even before he was a teenager, he was in the store 30 hours a week making money, and then started doing it internationally, trading that, and got into poker from there. He's always been a businessman.
Raised to 1 million.
So 8th place pays $947,000 and change, and then it just ramps up from there. The top 7 earn over $1 million, and of course first place, a cool $10 million. Sindelar raised to $1 million with pocket queens.
Queens have been good hand at this table so far tonight.
Does the chip leader want to take part in this hand?
Well, he's in the big blind, so he's getting a price to see a flop. Not good enough.
Give it up. He folds 9-6 of diamonds.
I think that's a call. I mean, if you flop a monster, you could potentially win a big pot. It's a hand where you could easily get away from it.
Crowd's getting restless. Do something for us, boys. A lot of family members up there. Sindelar's crew up there, along with his good buddy, Chris Johnson, who also had a high finish in the main event this year. They were both seated actually at the same table on the first day, and they asked to be switched. They said, no, can't do that. And so Sindelar unregistered and played a different day, and they both made very deep runs. Of course, Sindelar's still here. Sindelar in the big blind. And Larabe with the raise with the queen something. And that'll take it.
Queen something, one of my favorite hands.
As long as it's not ace queen.
As long as it's not. Well, that's ace queen. That's not queen something. That's ace queen. That's death. I see king queen. Yeah, that wins 72% of the times pre-flop when nobody calls.
So, Antonio, how do you prepare yourself as a player for the ebbs and flows? I mean, how do you recognize when things are going a little south and you have to be maybe be a little less?
You know, it's not easy because emotion gets the best of you so many times, especially when you're, at a final table and you've worked so hard to get there. You really just have to be conscious of it. It takes discipline and a lot of control. And unless you have it, the tilt factor could set you in.
Yeah, that reminds me of the summer I was playing with David Singer, bracelet winner, at a World Series event, and he told me he walks around the table 3 times to change his luck. And he did it that day. We were playing the Stud 8 10K championship. He was low stacked. He walked around the table 3 times. I said, what are you doing? He says, this changes my luck. And it worked for him that day. He was like low stacked when there was 13 players left, and he ended up finishing, I think, 7th in the tournament.
3 times around the
3
table.
times, and he had me do it a little later when I got low stacked. I just don't have the right walk. It didn't work for me.
One hope for the Rays to 1.2 million with ace-9, and Jacobson no longer the short stack. That belongs to Politano now, but they are not far apart.
Ted Forrest, 6-time bracelet winner, says that when he used to lose a big pot at the Hustler Casino in LA, he would run around the block. He'd leave the casino and run around to keep himself from going on tilt or to get rid of the bad juju.
That sounds like a Huck C type of thing. He would go off and run a 5-minute mile somewhere, maybe.
Well, that's on a prop bet.
Yeah, right.
And Ted Forrest actually knows prop bets too, but that's
Indeed.
another way to get rid of the bad luck.
Van Hof hits an ace. And Jacobson, there we go, checks ace-9 for Van Hof.
1.4.
A bet and a fold. As Jacobson just looking for some light that he can work with, and he just has had so little. And once again, the short stack. As Van Hof had the ace, he hit the ace. Jacobson looking to find some magic with those cards, and it's just not happening for him. So right now, Jorrit Van Hof, who started as our chip leader, is working his way back less than 200,000 from Tonking, who is our chip leader. 10 million for first, Mark Newhouse, and now that is not something, well, it is something we saw last year, but yeah, it happened again. Back-to-back 9th place finishes. Will Tonking took over the chip lead with the knockout of Newhouse, stunning as it was, and now Tonking with just a very slim chip lead on Van Hof right now, both in the 49 million range. Action is on Tonking. It's fun to watch as the chip lead does bounce around, Antonio, and how each player manages that chip lead, as you see pocket jacks for Tonking, and whether or not they feel there's a specific role as a chip leader, or if it's something they should stay away from doing. And sometimes they've never had a chip lead in this type of situation or anything close to this situation, and sometimes they just don't know how to handle the chips. Sindelar with the re-raise with ace-4.
How much about did you start with there?
22.
Sindelar in 3rd place.
So this is a pretty standard call here, out of position. You don't want to re-raise and play a massive pot with jacks when you can just call and, you know, semi-trap your opponent into continuing after the flop.
And pray for undercards.
Right, and so, you know, Tonking has opened up a little bit. He's loosened up. He's played a couple more hands open, and Sindelar knows this, so obviously Sindelar is more likely to 3-bet him now. This isn't the best flop for Tonking, but I don't think he's going anywhere.
I like the Pope check. See the Pope check by Tonking?
Yeah, I've seen that before.
A little, bless you, young man.
Bet.
Yeah.
1.8.
I mean, Tonking definitely has to call here. And he will. You know, some players at home watching this would think, well, why wouldn't he just raise and, you know, he's got the best hand. Well, first of all, he doesn't know he has the best hand. And even if he did, he doesn't want to take away his bluff factor from his opponent. And if he doesn't have the best hand, now he's just making a bigger pot for his opponent to win. So when you have a hand that's vulnerable but good, you want to play it very carefully.
4 of hearts. So Sindelar pairs up.
So this should slow Sindelar down, just because now he has some showdown value, not much, just because he got check called on the flop. It's, you know, pretty unlikely that Tonking has a hand like ace-queen, but the 4 doesn't hurt.
10 of diamonds, 3rd diamond on the board there. So Tonking's jacks and 8s are best.
This will be a check spot. I mean, the third diamond is something to think about, but, you know, Tonking checked the river, so he probably doesn't have a flush. He just has a hand that can win in a showdown, and Sindelar's not going to bluff at it again. So
Will Tonking will take that $9.3 million chip pot, increase his chip lead on the table. He's now approaching $55 million, and Team Tonking out of their seats once again. That's what we expect from the main event crowd. And it is something special to have your name chanted, though. I don't think Will Tonking is in that field of players who would rather have their name chanted.
That didn't faze him at all. He didn't even crack a smile.
No, any fanfare he is against. And that's just comes down to it. That's not the kind of guy he is. He says, it's not me. But the crowd can have their fun.
Sindelar took a little hit there. He is now in the middle.
Yeah, down
he's
fifth place.
Fifth place out of 8.
Sindelar with the raise with the ace-10. And Pappas, who has been pretty much a non-factor so far at this final table. He makes the call from the big blind for one red chip more. King Jack. And after a while, a couple of picture cards look really good to somebody who hasn't played a lot of hands. But the ace for Sindelar will crush Pappas's hopes.
Bet 1.2.
And when Billy's thinking, so that's the way it's going to go, huh? Pappas will take the hit. Sindelar will get a few chips back.
Van Hoof and Stevenson are pot limit Omaha specialists. Sindelar loves pot limit Omaha, but it's hard to find in Las Vegas, which makes no sense to me, Antonio. Las Vegas never closes. It's a poker town. Pot limit Omaha should be available like at every Home Depot and Burger King. What's with your town?
I think it's that a lot of tourists come into town, and all the games are mostly people from out of town, and so they don't love to play Omaha that much. Most of the people that come into town for the weekend, they go to a convention, they want to go down and play poker, they like to play Hold'em. They see it on TV, they hear you talk about it, they're inspired.
This town's built for tourists.
But there's so many poker tables, there's so many poker rooms, you just think you can have 1 or 2 out of the 20 be PLO.
They get games from time to time, but nothing consistent.
Folded to Tonking.
Raise to 1.1.
Getting busy again.
I love how Tonking has shifted now. Now that he has a lot of chips, he's loosened up. He's playing a lot more hands, and that's exactly what you have to do. Just shows me that.
Well, he's not fooling around too much. He's playing hands that.
No, I mean he played kind of snug earlier and made an incredible call with 2 queens, which I really respect. And now he's got all the chips, and he's putting the hammer to his opponents. I love it. I love the way he's been playing right now.
Tonking mostly a cash game player. Jacobson never plays cash. Who's got cash on him anymore anyway? It's all credit cards.
Well, this is
Here we go. All in with ace king Jacobson with the ultimate re-raise. Politano finally folds quickly.
And I think Tonking just has to call. I mean, he has a pair. He's got all the chips.
And it's, yeah. That's
He's
even
got
better
$1 million
news.
out there. I mean, he could be the favorite. It's not easy though, because you don't want to give up 10 million of your 54 million chip stack. But if you call and win, it's very, very good. So.
Oh, he folds the 6s.
Look, I mean, if he calls and his opponent has a bigger pair, he's dead. If he doesn't, he still has to fade 2 overcards. So the fold is completely justified. He doesn't want the chips to go to his left. I get it. But if you want to win, I think you kind of have to make that call.
Jacobson, the London-based Swede. The Tonking crowd Still at it. They don't care win or lose. All right, so the Swede taking chips from the Team USA player.
I have a lot of friends and relatives in New Jersey, but I've never considered New Jersey part of the USA.
All right, back to action. This is hand number 77 of the World Series of Poker main event final table, 2014 edition of the November 9. Coming to you on just a 30-minute delay. Hope you're enjoying the coverage with the cards up. When a player enters a pot, as Will Tonking just did, you will see what he's playing with. Queen Jack of clubs.
He's loosened up, but he's also getting some pretty hands.
That's what I mean. Everything's going in Will Tonking's way right now. Pappas with 12.2 million. Jacobson has the same stack. They both fold to Von Hof, sitting with 49 million. Von Hof gets rid of it, and Tonking will take it. Who will stop this man? Tonking plays a lot online, mostly online. The highest games he can find, he can play in New Jersey online legally. And then he goes outside and plays an even higher cash game in the Sands in Pennsylvania. So he's trying to make it work for himself, and everything he's done, I guess, has been built for this moment. 54.5 million chips for Will Tonking, 27-year-old, and he has over a quarter of the chips in play. 8-handed still, the Penn and Teller Theater. And he seems very comfortable where he is right now.
Hard not to be comfortable when you're the chip leader.
Politano now in the yellow has the action. Under 20 big blinds, the short stack, the Brazilian.
And when you get under 20 big blinds, it's kind of when it starts getting a little hairy.
Two face cards for Politano's worth a raise to $1.25 million.
You know, given his stack, you know, I would consider shoving, just because you don't want to get 3-bet and have to fold the hand.
Larabe does fold his big blind, so Politano will take it.
That's the second time here. Recently he's raised to 1.25 million and gotten it through. He had the pocket sixes a few hands ago. It was not challenged.
That's just a taste of what the Brazilians can bring to a party.
Finally Bruno smiles, the old Bruno.
Yeah, he really hasn't been connected with his rail as much as we saw him back in July, in the earlier days of the main event. But I guess he's a celebrity now, so he has to keep his distance from from his crowd.
Oh, his own rail is paparazzi?
Yeah. Back to Bruno now, hand number 79. If you joined us late, we've had some very interesting hands. Mark Newhouse knocked out once again improbably in 9th place, just as he was knocked out in 9th place in last year's main event final table. Von Hof on the button, had it folded to him, so that's a raise to 1.1 million. Larabe was running pretty good early on, but we have not heard from him lately. 22-year-old Spaniard. Ace King, we'll hear from him now. The red chips, again, worth $500,000 each. Tonking folds after the re-raise from Larabe. 3 million, and that gets Van Hoof to fold his Jack 4, and so Larabe gets a little richer. He is in third place right now. 22 million chips even for Larabe, and he came in to this final table with 22.5 million.
Tonking and Van Hoof combined have half the chips on the table. Then Larabe, Stevenson, and Sindelar all around the 40 big blind area. And Pappas, Jacobson, and Politano, the 3 short stacks, each with just a little more than 20 big blinds.
Treading water at a final table actually means you are moving backwards, and that's what Larabe has been doing. Even though he is in third place and started this final table in fourth place, with the blinds increase, he has fewer big blinds and just has an indication that, you know, not much has been going on for him lately.
You're doing great.
Short stacks looking for something to work, and you know, we've seen it before. You know, lightning can strike, and you have to be patient in this game. This is for a lot of these guys the dog days of the final table, where it's like Death Valley. Every card you're dealt looks like the previous bad cards you were dealt. And you have to be careful not to get too excited about some moderate, mediocre cards. Larabe with a Queen 8 on the button made the raise.
Call.
Chip leader wants to play with ace queen suited, just a call. And Sindelar in the big blind wants to play with ace tray of diamonds.
A lot of potential going to this flop, boys.
And there is an ace. And so Tonking with the best of it with his queen. Sindelar hit that ace as well, but the weak kicker.
It's a wise check by Sindelar.
10 of spades.
I got to figure Tonking will get busy now.
Well, it's not exactly the safest card. You know, Queen Jack gets there, King 10 gets there, 9-10 gets there.
Does he want to make the
Ace
draw?
10
But if
gets
they didn't
there.
get there and they're drawing, you want to make some pay.
Right, but he's out of position, so now, you know, yes, you should pay, but he doesn't love that card.
Out of position. Most of us are out of position most of our lives. Just live with it and deal with it.
Got to make something work. So Tonking bets his better pair of aces, gets Sindelar to come along, and Larabe folded. So we're heads up going to the river. Another 10. So aces and 10s with the king kicker. If it shows down, they will chop it.
Yeah, there's a chance that one of them fires. If Sindelar puts his opponent on an ace and it's checked to him, then, you know, absolutely he should bet. He doesn't put him on ace king because he just flatted the original raiser in the small blind. So it's actually a pretty good card for Sindelar to stab on the river and take away that chop.
Check, check. Same hand. Chop it up. They get some of Larabe's money.
Sindelar happy with the chop chop.
Yeah.
Tonking a little frustrated.
But the only damage done to Larabe's stack.
Yeah.
As he put $1 million in there. So Dan Sindelar, almost $21.5 million. And Tan Dan will stack a few chips, and will as well. And it has been quite an interesting turn of events. I mean, he has been, Will Tonking has been pretty much, I would say, the quietest and least forthcoming of the November Niners. And he may be thrust into a position where he's got to be one of the guys who talks a lot about poker. Coming up on the break in just a few minutes, we'll see Kara, Daniel, and Phil detail some of the hands that went down, and we'll be getting up close and let you know a little more about Will Tonking. And the break within 5 minutes, I believe. And always interesting to hear what a couple of Hall of Fame poker players have to say about the current final table. And Daniel Negreanu, the newest player to be inducted in the Poker Hall of
So
Fame.
how come Kara gets Hall of Fame poker players to talk with, and we get
No,
what's
that's
his
true.
name? Oh, Antonio.
Antonio.
That was good. I'm just going to concede because that was really good.
You're not gonna. I'm not gonna. I don't believe you're gonna concede.
I concede.
You're gonna get me when I'm not looking for it.
All in.
And Jacobson says all in with pocket eights. And he will take it as Sindelar folds after trying to buy it with queen 4. And so Jacobson now into 6th place, 13.6 million. Trying to at least scratch and claw his way back to his starting stack of 14.9 million. And he knows it's not going to take much. You know, as you mentioned, he was the day 1 and 2 and day 6 chip leader of the main event, overall leader. And just to have this chip stack that really hamstrings him has to be very frustrating for this tournament specialist.
He has shown, again, a lot of patience and discipline. Even though he had a relatively short stack, he knew he had time to play because of the blind situation, and he's stuck around, and all he does is get to hit one hand, and he's right in the middle of the pack or better, and he's in business.
Van Hoof raises. Larabe thinking about this. Larabe's been pretty solid throughout as well, and he will make this call of 1.1 million. Talking folded. You see Larabe with ace jack. Politano now.
And sometimes I like to call with ace jack there, and sometimes I like to 3-bet. I kind of almost do half and half there. If you hit a flop, it's great. You have position on the chip leader. I mean, nobody ever hits a flop, but
that's why I play Omaha. You hit more flops.
Right.
Seems like more fun.
That is absolutely true. But the problem is now the original raiser, you know, is almost always going to continuation bet. And then what do you do with ace jack when you miss? You know, it's kind of a tough spot.
Van Hoof opts to check here instead of continuing. So now it's in Larabe's court. An all red flop for those spades of Van Hoof.
With a check to him here, you should almost always bet about 1/3 of the pot, just to kind of.
1.1.
How about
1.1?
How about 1.1 to do a 3.3? Huh?
Yeah, you just put yourself in the offense, and you know your opponent has to go on the defense. So.
Even with the cards up, you know what's going to happen. And Van Hoof will fold. Larabe will take that. And so we are going to be on a break, but our poker coverage will continue. Phil Hellmuth, Daniel Negreanu, Kara Scott coming your way to take you through the break. Get some highlights that will happen in this level of play, then we'll be back to continue. We are 8-handed still at the Penn and Teller Theater. Van Hoof, the chip leader early, but now Will Tonking is the man of the hour.
Welcome back to the 2014 World Series of Poker main event final table telecast presented by Gentleman Jack. Way back in July, 6,683 players entered the main event, and now just 8 are left. Someone's life is about to change in a huge way. There was so much talk about Mark Newhouse coming into this final table, and the fact that he was here last year as well. But a wild hand against Will Tonking meant that Mark has improbably finished 9th for the 2nd straight year. Hi everyone, I'm Kara Scott. With me are 2 players who know all about the big stage. Daniel Negreanu, 6-time bracelet winner, 2014 one-drop runner-up, and a recent inductee into the Poker Hall of Fame. And Phil Hellmuth, 13-time bracelet winner, 1989 main event champion, and also a member of the Poker Hall of Fame. I'm in very good company here. Now, this last level had, a different flavor than the first one. It's kind of what we were expecting to see, things stepping up a notch here. So, was it what you were hoping to see, Daniel? A little more action, maybe?
Well, there was, but, the first hand that I wanted to talk about was the one about, with the pocket 5s from Larabe. The theme that I'm seeing so far is the fact that people are not betting and getting full value in spots, and it's like the fear of the river check raise. So they're not coming in with the mentality of, like, I want to win. They're thinking, okay, I'm just not going to go broke on this hand.
Okay. Would you
that's
agree with
right.
that?
And we're going to come to that hand in a minute. It really is a great illustrator for Daniel's point. My impressions, I would say that's really interesting to see. I'm really surprised that Tonking has. I'm impressed with the fact that he's maintained his patience. He's been able to kind of wait for strong hands, and I think you watch it on day 6, you watch it on day 7. He's a very patient player. That gives you the chance to get lucky, and now he's picked up a bunch of big hands. Impressive performance from Tonking so far.
Okay, well, let's take a look at one of the hands that we want to talk about here now. This is Sindelar with a misdraw on the river, and he makes he doesn't bet on the turn, Daniel, and this is not something that you like.
Well, I don't know that I don't hate it, but
Okay.
it's really interesting. It shows you just, again, the whole theme. He's got an open and a straight and a flush draw. An ace came off, which is a really good scare card he could represent with, but he decided to take the free card. I do love this river bet. I think Newhouse makes a mistake. He's got queen high, knows he's not going to win. Newhouse should have took this spot. This really shows you, say, who wants it more, right? And Sindelar certainly did in this spot.
You know, I think it's interesting, Daniel. Who wants it more is one, but the second factor is Newhouse knew that he was playing, that everyone knew that he was playing way too many hands. He was playing really fast, and so when Newhouse bet that flop and got called, he had the draw. So I think that he put his opponent on a jack, and he had to give up and shut down. So actually, I don't have a problem with that, but I do like the way that you said, whoever wants it the most is going to win.
Okay, well, we have a hand that maybe actually speaks to this point again, where Larabe turns a set and doesn't maybe get full value for it, Phil? What do you think?
Well, I mean, to me, this was the worst play of the tournament, and I'm talking about he makes a nice bet on the turn here as you're watching, but on the end, what he's going to do is he's going to check 3-5s after a king comes off, and it was the worst check that I've seen the whole tournament. He's in position, and I just hate that play, and it really illustrates what Daniel's talking about. These players aren't getting value on their hands.
Why do you think that is? What's going through their heads that they're not making the most that they can?
Well, there's a couple considerations. First and foremost, there's money jumps, right? So you don't want to be that guy. Also, there's always a difficult, question is, if they check raise, what will I do, right? So nobody wants to be putting themselves in that spot, but they should be a little bit more often than they have been.
Okay, let's take a look at a hand that actually changed everything up here in the last level. This is Newhouse's exit. We have lost him from the tournament in 9th again, and I don't even know what the odds are for that, finishing in the exact same place 2 years in a row in the main event. Now, Phil, is this a blow-up, do you think?
Well, I'll let Daniel address that. You think it's a blow-up?
Well, yeah, personally, I would have never played the hand the way that I did. Aside from just the play of the hand, I think Mark Newhouse set himself up for failure. When he bought into the tournament, he says, I'm not going to come ninth. Whatever it is, I don't want to come ninth. I don't want to come ninth. It's like he put that out in the universe, right? So where else could he possibly finish other than exactly ninth? I think he psyched himself out and pushed the envelope in a spot where he could have put the brakes on.
Okay. Do you think the fact that Newhouse is seen to be a player who plays maybe a wider range of hands, it kind of fed into Tonking's decision there on the river? I mean, when he makes that call with queens, it's not an easy call, right?
Absolutely, but I think that Mark Newhouse did something. He went for the win, and sometimes when you go for it, you fall short. I don't think I would have made that bet. I don't think Daniel would have made that bet.
I got to step in because the problem here is that he's representing just a jack, right? He called a raise and called a re-raise.
A big raise. He called
yeah, sure.
4
7s,
million.
8s, 9s, 10s. That makes sense, right? He knows now when he gets called in the turn that he's beat. So he's trying to represent like Jack 10 suited, Jack Queen suited. It's a tough sell, and Tonking made a really good read.
Okay, well, when we come back, we'll put the spotlight on Will Tonking. The 27-year-old is certainly making a name for himself here tonight.